So we've talked a lot on this channel about the vessels utilized by the UNSC Navy during the Human Covenant War, but I figured today we could take a special look at some of the ground vehicles utilized by the UNSC during the conflict. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So we're all very familiar with the forces of the UNSC during the Human Covenant War. We've talked a lot about the ships utilized in space combat during the conflict, but we really haven't touched on the ground combat. So I figured today we'll take a little bit of a look at some of the land vehicles utilized by the UNSC during the war. So let's just jump right in with the first one that you're probably thinking about, the M12 Warthog. The M12 Warthog is a four-wheel all-purpose vehicle utilized by the UNSC for basically everything. While its most famous variant did have an M41 Vulcan chain gun on it, which was used primarily for anti-air, it was still able to be modified to fill a wide variety of roles. It could be used for a ground transport for quite a few UNSC Marines. It was often used as a light scout vehicle due to its speed and maneuverability, and its turret could be replaced with other heavier munitions, allowing it to engage larger, more heavily armored Covenant targets. Its heavy chain gun could be swapped for various rocket launchers and Gauss cannons that allowed it to really pack a punch against heavier targets, to the point where a skilled driver and gunner who could position the vehicle right could use those weapons to take down something as heavy and capable as a Wraith. Interestingly enough, the M12 also seems to have a civilian variant, seen during Halo 2, at least on billboards. It suggests that this vehicle was so common and popular with military use that it made its way into the civilian market, which would make sense. It does seem to be a really effective off-road vehicle. But while the variety of munitions capable of being used by the M12 Warthog were really effective against light targets, infantry, and aircraft, what if the Covenant brought something larger? Now, I did just mention that some of the heavier munitions on the Warthog could engage heavy armored Covenant targets, but they weren't always preferable. See, the UNSC had another major ground vehicle that often saw combat right alongside the Warthog, and that is the M808B Scorpion. The M808B Scorpion is the main battle tank utilized by the UNSC through most of the conflict and really saw a lot of action during the later years. As opposed to a modern main battle tank, it actually is a relatively slim design, being armed with a single 90mm main cannon, which was capable of firing high explosive rounds and punching through armor, as well as an M231 light machine gun, which could either be mounted coaxially next to the turret or on a separate turret on the base of the vehicle. This allowed the Scorpion to be able to effectively engage heavy armored targets, things like Wraiths and heavy Covenant positions, and do so fairly easily and way more effectively than a Warthog with a Gauss cannon or a rocket turret, as well as utilize its machine gun to fend off infantry that may be trying to board and disable the tank. Like I mentioned, the Scorpion is fairly stripped down compared to modern main battle tanks, but that works in its advantage. You see, unlike most main modern battle tanks utilized by major global superpowers, the Scorpion was remarkably capable of being airlifted into an area. Like the Warthog, the Scorpion could be carried by the Pelican, a large dropship utilized by the UNSC throughout the entire duration of the war, and it could carry one of these tanks into basically any environment, dropping it right in the thick of combat. This allowed armored units to be deployed basically right where they needed to be. There was no trying to get them as close as possible. They didn't have to cross large stretches of terrain. They could simply be dropped right into the battle. This just adds to the versatility of the M808B. But there is a downside. Compared to at least the Warthog, the M808B was relatively slow, and while it was more armored than the lightly armored Scout Warthog, it was not quite as armored as you would expect for a main battle tank. A few good shots could knock it out of action. Still, both of these vehicles would form the crux of UNSC ground forces and play major roles in nearly every ground battle throughout the entire duration of the Human Covenant War. Their remarkable functionality in combat and the versatility of, in particular, the Warthog, but really both vehicles, made them really a good option for the UNSC, which was fighting in nearly every environment known to man, really. And one of the things that made these vehicles so favorable with the UNSC was their ease of deployment. They could be deployed right onto the battlefield from the back of a Pelican. If you want to learn more about the Pelican dropship, which I've mentioned several times, and really, which could carry both of these vehicles and enhance their abilities in combat, I'll leave a link up here to my video all about the Pelicans. And in which let me know which of these two are your favorite, the iconic Warthog or the mighty Scorpion. And if you have anything you want to see me cover in Halo, leave it down below in the comments. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.